So another common question that we get from homeowners is, how do I know if I have storm damage and should I file a claim? I think this is one of the most common when we get calls to the office. They start to see like their neighbor's got a new roof, or they know a storm came in and hail happened, or high wind, or a tornado happened. It's how do I know if I should file a claim? How do I even know if I have the storm damage that would be approved? Because I don't want to file a claim. I don't want to claim on my record with my insurance company if I don't have damage. So what are some ways that they can know if they have storm damage in the first place?
Yeah, and it's a good question. And another question would be is like, how do I know whether I should call a contractor out or not? And I think as a homeowner, there's a couple of things that you can do. If a big storm happens, take a walk around your property. Not all damages are things that you're going to be able to see or know to look for as a homeowner. However, sometimes there's going to be certain signs like missing shingles, or missing siding pieces that have blown off your house, or maybe holes in your siding. If the hailstorm was significant enough, it may put holes in vinyl siding. Or look at the soft metals, your gutters and downspouts, anything that's aluminum, window wraps. If you see dings, round indentations on them, dents in your gutters, it's a sign. It doesn't mean that was caused by the storm, but it is a sign that you can lead to the conclusion of, hey, I might need to have a contractor out here to look at this.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, walking around the exterior is good. I think also walking around the interior, I think there's some homes, we're seeing this, we're seeing now that there are a lot of older generations, maybe in the baby boomer generations, Gen Xers, and they've become empty nesters in these rather large homes. And we don't see downsizing happening as much anymore, because you sell your house and you got to move into a smaller house at the same price. So now there's these rooms in the house that they don't go into. Maybe it was their children's bedrooms or whatnot. And so I think another great place to look is just to look around the interior as well, because maybe you don't have the ability to get up on your roof. Maybe it's steep or tall, or, just not safe, for homeowners to get up on the roof. Here's a warning: if you're not comfortable and you don't know and you're unsure, don't get on your roof. It's a risky thing, For sure. You fall off, hurt yourself. So one thing you can do is just look around for leaks on the interior. Look for staining on the ceiling, water coming in. Most commonly, these are going to happen around like skylights, penetrations, pipe boots, bathroom vents, different things like that will also give you that sign. What other areas do you think they might be able to inspect when they're looking for that?
It's good to get into your attic. If you don't want to get into your attic and not sure what to look for, obviously call a contractor out there to do that for you. They should be willing to get in your attic and do an inspection of that as well. But a lot of times, if you're having a leak occur, the first place you're going to see it is in the attic before it starts staining ceilings or anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because otherwise it just starts to leak in and it'll absorb into your insulation in the attic space. And then it doesn't start to present itself until a period of time later. And I think one important thing to understand about that is, with insurance claims, you only have a certain window based off your policy to file a claim. So if you're having a leak and it doesn't present itself, or you don't go in a room and you don't notice it, you may only have 1 to 2 years. Usually the max is going to be 2 years that you have to file that claim from the date of loss, which would be when the storm occurred. Right. So definitely, I agree. Getting in the attic, looking around, and if you're not able to do that, call a contractor. We get a lot of calls from homeowners asking us to come out and do inspections and check for the storm damage.
And I'll just add this in there too, that, if you don't have a leak, your property still could have been damaged by hail. And a lot of times that damage will take longer than that time period you have to file a claim to actually see damages occur from that. So that's also why it's kind of important to have it inspected after a storm before that 2-year time period or even a year time period passes, because the damages could come after that.
Yeah, and I think it's important to have if you're not an expert in identifying storm damage, hail damage, wind damage, you should have an expert come out and do this for you, because it doesn't, I'll just tell you from experience, it doesn't look like what a normal homeowner may think that it looks like, which brings us kind of to the next point is they're like, one good way to know if you have storm damage and should you file a claim is to have your home inspected by a trusted contractor after any storm. I think a good question here that homeowners start to ask is like, well, what is a trusted contractor? And I think there's quite a few things that go into what is a trusted contractor. This list, I don't think necessarily like 100% like is the end all be all. But I think there's quite a few things. A good contractor is going to have good reviews. Yeah. Right. These days, you can't delete Google reviews. So going on to different platforms, especially Google, looking at those reviews, are they reputable? Do they have any complaints with the Better Business Bureau? That is a very commonplace. We all know the Better Business Bureau. It is the watchdog of the industry. And what the Better Business Bureau has found is there are more complaints against contractors than anybody else. Right. Imagine that, right? Like if you haven't had a bad experience with a contractor, you probably know somebody who has had a bad experience with a contractor. So checking them on the Better Business Bureau is always a great idea. I think it's good, to choose a contractor that's been in business for 10 years. I don't think you have to, but the reason that I suggest that is 80% of contractors fail in the first 5 years. And I'm probably being generous. It's probably more like 90% fail in the first 2 years.
It's a staggering number.
It is. It's unbelievable, really. But when you get up to a contractor that has been in business for 10 years, only 1% of roofing contractors stay in business for 10 years or longer. So it lets you know that this is probably a company that's doing it well. Now, with that said, sometimes I think people call other people and they say, well, yeah, you called Jimmy. Jimmy's been doing roofing for 20 years, right? But does he have a company that's been in business for 20 years? Or has Jimmy had 6 companies in 20 years? And every time he runs into problems, he closes it down and starts up another company. I'm not saying Jimmy doesn't know about roofing, but is Jimmy a good business for you to buy from?
It's a good safety measure. If you're starting from scratch, you don't know what to look for or what a good contractor consists of. It's just a good measure that you're going to eliminate a lot of bugs with looking for somebody that has experience like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think a lot of homeowners don't have their home inspected once a year, but, that's something that we really recommend. We try to go back to our homeowners once a year and touch base and just inspect the work that we've done, because we offer a lifetime workmanship warranty to our customers. So it's easy for us to catch a small problem before it turns into a big problem. But I think in general, we get storms every year. I can't recall a year, maybe you can, where we didn't get a storm.
Some years are worse than others.
But I think it's a great idea once a year to have a contractor come out, inspect the property, just make sure it's all in good condition. And I think that alone allows you to start building a relationship with a reputable contractor that's willing to come out and inspect your property, and you can start to build that relationship. Like, do they have good communication? Do they show up when they say they're going to show up? They can kind of, it's like their words, aren't worth it unless they're starting to walk it as well. So you can really kind of test them out a little bit. One other way that I think this happens quite commonly, actually, we get a lot of calls in the office. People will start to see their neighbors get a new roof, right? And so I think that's always should be a sign. Like if you see Like, yeah, I mean, every once in a while somebody's getting a roof done here and there.
Right.
But if you're seeing like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 of your neighbors getting their roofs replaced, do you think that could be a good sign that like they should have their property inspected as well?
Yeah, I think that's a or gimme. If you have a handful of neighbors that are getting their roof replaced consecutively, and you haven't had yours looked at yet, you'd be doing yourself an injustice not to have it inspected.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, another sign is if there's people knocking on your door, offering them. Now be careful with those people because that could be anybody and they're not necessarily reputable. But I think that's why a lot of customers call us, right? They'll reach out to UHQ and they say, hey, we think we might have storm damage. We're not sure if we have storm damage. We're seeing our neighbors' roofs get replaced. I've got siding missing. I saw some shingles come off my roof. And then they'll reach out to us because what they're trying to avoid is having more damage. If you have storm damage and it doesn't get taken care of, and it's something you could file an insurance claim on and you miss that window, one, now you're either going to pay for it out of pocket. And two, if it gets to a point where there's leaking occurring, other damage could get worse. You could go from, a situation where you could have got it fixed quickly and now you have no interior damage versus having a situation where you don't get it addressed, you don't get your house inspected once a year, and now all of a sudden your damage got worse. All your insulation is soaked in your attic. That needs to be pulled out and replaced. You've got drywall damage that needs to be replaced. And so rather than, doing that, that's why we have a lot of customers that'll reach out to us and say, hey, do we come out and do an inspection? We think we had a storm come through. And then that allows them to be on the front end, be proactive versus the reactive side of it.
Yeah.
So,